All right, for more on India's gold and gold in general, I'm joined by Ankur Patel in Alabama. He is the co-founder and chief investment officer at R Squared Macro. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
So, Ankur, Indians are hoarding around 20,000 tons of gold. To put that in perspective, that is more than 4 times the amount that's kept in Fort Knox. Given gold really has no intrinsic value, why do Indians find it so valuable, and why are they stashing it at home?
So for Indians really in India, there's 2 purposes for gold. One, it's a store of value, and given that India for many years has suffered from very high inflation, gold has been a better store of value than the Indian rupee. And the second major component has been that gold has a certain amount of cultural significance, sentimental value. It is frequently given during weddings and graduations, birthdays, and the like. And given that special attachment to gold, it's hard to not consume as much as they have been over recent years.
Well, Modi's administration wants to tap into those gold stockpiles. He's maintaining that hoarding gold is hurting the economy. How so?
So the plan around Modi is if you have gold, maybe just as household wealth, you can actually pledge that to the banking system, be more integrated with it, and then that essentially frees up your wealth. You have more cash on hand to spend and consume. It's highly stimulative for the Indian economy, and also helps reduce the current account deficit because it frees up some of the gold that households currently have and allows that to go back into circulation. Banks can lend that out.
Well, you know, Modi is really making big efforts to do this. A lot of incentives. You've got a gold deposit plan offering interest rates and no tax, completely tax exempt. You've got a sovereign bond program linked to the metal's price and locally minted coins. But so far, I mean, this has been, well, very, very disappointing. Only around 14 ounces of gold, 400 grams have been deposited. That is a paltry $15,000 worth of gold. Why is this not working at all?
So the majority of the owners of gold happen to be farmers in rural communities, and they have a very strong aversion to participating in a scheme like this. First, they're very skeptical of the traditional banking system. It's not something that they have been part of, so to them it's a very foreign element. And the second thing is that there's just a general still lack of awareness around, well, how long is this monetization scheme going to last? What does it really mean? Will they be able to reclaim that gold after a set number of years? The newness, the novelty of it is still a big aversion for a lot of the farmers in the rural countryside.
Well, assuming it does catch on, what impact do you think this could have on the economy? How significant will this freeing of this capital be?
So I think you're right. I mean, I think there's a big if, but if it were to be successful, it certainly would reduce the amount of gold that India would have to import. India is right now the biggest importer of gold in the world. Half of its current account deficit in recent years has been attributable to gold. And what it would allow a lot of households to do would be they would have cash on hand instead of gold on hand, which they can use for more productive measures, investment, consumption, and the like. And India as a whole would be much better off. It would have a much narrower current account deficit, and the credit supply growth would be much more substantial than it's been in recent years.
Well, Ankur, the Indians may still be loving gold, but it really has lost a lot of its appeal. It has been up in the last 2 days, mostly due to uncertainty over the Paris attacks and the potential Fed rate hike. But it's still around 5-year lows at about $1,000.77 per ounce. You can see how not popular it is because the amount of money in the gold ETF, which is a popular way to get exposure to gold, has also dropped to its lowest level since January of 2009. So big picture, what would it take to push gold back to that near 2000 level? Do you see that happening?
Not anytime soon. I think you need to see a couple things happen. One, you need to see inflation around the world pick up very materially. And right now, there's just no catalyst for that level of inflation. Gold is certainly a hedge against inflation. And since there is no inflation, that purpose isn't there. The second big thing is that gold is a major safe haven. It's an alternative to fiat currency. And that would require investors to really have a risk-off event that they're afraid of and therefore need to hedge. 2008, for example, really spurred a rally in gold. If you were to see an event like that, you may see another ramp up in gold prices, but barring that, gold prices are unlikely to rebound in a material way.
Right. I tend to agree with you on that one. Thank you so much, Ankur Patel, co-founder and chief investment officer at R Squared Macro.